We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
Of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
I would now like to bring up our Township of Union Police Department Honor Guard, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of the national anthem sung by Gabriella Scott. Would you all please stand?
Honor Guard, attention! Honor Guard, post! Honor Guard, left, peace. Present, host.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Honor guard, order, halt. Right, heat.
How about a nice round of applause for our honor guard and Gabriella Scott? Thank you, Gabby. Please have a seat. I'm honored to welcome you here to the 2022 Veterans Day ceremony here at Town Hall. Thank you for joining us here today as we come to acknowledge our veterans today. And how about that video? I don't know how many times I've seen that, and it still touches me, and those iconic voices of Ronald Reagan and John Kennedy. There's no better presenting some of those words that we heard. I'd like to take a moment to recognize all of our service members, our veterans, current active duty service member, guardsmen, and reservists. Due to your service and your heroism, we come together today on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month to acknowledge your sacrifice that keeps us safe. Now I'd like to begin by introducing some fellow dignitaries that are here today and thank them for joining us here today. I'd like to acknowledge Senator Joseph Cryan, who's here this morning with us. Assemblyman Atkins is here. Our Township Committee members that are up here, Deputy Mayor Cavadas, who will speak shortly, Committeeman Florio, and regrets from Committeewoman Michelle Dellisford and Clifton People, who are unable to be here today. Our Township administrators, Don Travisano, William Reyes here today. Bob Johnson, the ever-ready bunny, the guy that keeps this all going. Thank you so much. His liaison from the Veterans Alliance and past commander of the VFW. I now would like to call up Reverend Starling, who will deliver our invocation. Reverend?
Let us bow our hearts together. O God, eternal Father and everlasting King of heaven and earth, we sincerely acknowledge your sovereignty over our lives, for your kingdom rules over all. With this in mind, we gather together to remember our veterans, whose valor, courage, and heroism has inspired us to be more noble, vigilant, and thankful. Bless our time here today as we honor them and their families. May we continue to be educated regarding their lives. In solidarity, with love and respect and appreciation we have for them in their families, we show dignity and courage to love and express our deep appreciation for their sacrifice. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Reverend Starling, for those words of warmth and encouragement. Thank you. Former Secretary of State and United States Army officer Colin Powell once said, quote, "Whenever and wherever the nation has called, in times of darkness and danger, as well as in times of peace and prosperity, Americans, veterans have been there. Veterans have proudly carried the torch of liberty for all of us to see," end quote. I think of the veterans who enlisted without knowing what lies ahead, but did so out of respect and patriotism for our great country. Their sacrifices, often emotional, mental, physical, and sometimes even more, must never be forgotten. In our country, while we have been blessed to live without a war that is to the scale of a World War II, a Vietnam, or Korea, our military force is rapidly decreasing, and memberships in VFWs and American Legions are declining as a result. There is a wealth of knowledge and experience that can be attained from the older generation of veterans, and their guidance is crucial to the younger generation of service members that follow in their footsteps. That is not to say that our younger service members have any less to offer. In the Township of Union alone, as you just witnessed, our police, fire, EMT forces are full of veterans who once served this great country and now protect our neighborhoods. We owe them a debt of gratitude and thank them as they serve as role models for their community, not just today, but every day. Let us keep in mind those who left behind their homes, their loved ones, their families, and put their lives on the line to serve and protect our great country. This call to service allows us the privilege to sleep peacefully at night. And it is a privilege that we should never, ever take for granted. Thank you again to those who have served, that are here today, and that are watching this. And may God bless you, keep you safe, and may God bless the United States of America. Now I'd like to call up New Jersey State Senator Joseph Krein for some remarks. Senator.
Morning, everyone. So, one of the privileges I have in this very privileged life is the opportunity as a senator to be the chairman of the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. And I have that opportunity because of the service of those heroes to my right and to my left. And on behalf of all of us that have that honor, thank you for your service. I want to just share with you for a moment, if I can, some of the committee's work has been on the more difficult side of trying to remind veterans who have earned the opportunity for benefits in this country to have that opportunity and to make sure they understand what they are. And what I want to do is just take you for a moment, refer you to a report just recently done, released in the last couple weeks. It's an ALICE report that refers to veterans. ALICE is an acronym for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employment is the term for ALICE. But in New Jersey, there are about 300,000 veterans, 294,000 as of 2019. And this report talks from 2019, just a little bit pre-COVID. Now, of those, by the way, 93% are male. Of those, by the way, more than a third can refer their veteran service from the Vietnam War. But the report talks about opportunities and what's going on out there in the veteran community and what services are out there and potential opportunities, and certainly underutilized. I think it's important. I think it's important that we understand where we're at. The group of veterans, by the way, that is most constrained by income, that lives on a financial cliff more than any other, are the veterans who served us in the Korean War, which, by the way, is close to my heart because my dad was there. When we talk about that, and then we look at the amount of folks who have served, and by the way, 76,000 of those veterans are over the age of 65. 176,000 are over the age of 65. Think about that. And the next highest block is the age between 45 and 64. Veterans sometimes don't understand all the opportunities that government has at least tried to provide for their service. I think we're going to hear about some of the private sector in a little while, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. But I do want to make sure that veterans that hear my voice or are in this room understand that there are particular services available to you. And they've been streamlined a little bit, which I think is helpful. For those of us here in Union County, there's a phone number, there's a veterans coordinator that does an outstanding job, Brad Peterson. His number, 908-527-4918. If you are unsure of a benefit, how to potentially gain something or understand something, 908-527-4918, 4918. It's an important number for rights that you've earned. I've used this office repeatedly. Frankly, Bob Johnson was mentioned earlier. We've used this office repeatedly as folks have come to us on referrals for benefits and things that they have earned and don't have the opportunity for. They've been a tremendous, tremendous resource. The second is 211, which I called this morning just to re-verify. 211 will help a veteran in crisis, financial crisis, homeless crisis, all those kind of things that we talk about, and we're going to continue to talk about till it's solved. But 211 is an invaluable resource and easily streamlined. 211. And finally, we have all talked about mental health over the past couple of years. We've all learned that mental health isn't some stigma anymore, right? And the veterans I talked about didn't have the opportunity for the understanding of PTSD, right, which we talk about diagnoses, more than 3/4 potentially come back with some form of PTSD. I suspect that in the part of the video where we talked about World War II, we just didn't understand it well enough to know what it was. And we're fortunate enough that today we do. We understand it coming out of COVID for our young people, and we understand PTSD more for those who served, who witnessed things that they shouldn't have, and who deserve the very best of supports. It is an ongoing focus of the work we do to try to make sure that veterans understand that mental health opportunities are there for them. Services that are important. I don't want to delve into the suicide rates, but there are stories after stories of folks literally having made decisions to end their life that have changed it based on calling 988. All right, so 3 numbers. 988 is a tremendous resource. Again, you press a couple buttons, you're referred, you get assessed, an understanding of what your needs are, which is critically important, and what they can do to solve and help you. Even though it's a national hotline, it gets very local. So if I can, I just want to repeat 3 numbers, 908-527-4918, right here in Union County. And I don't exactly know how many of the veterans are from Union County. I do know the number of 300,000 in our state. But please, you deserve the services that you've earned, and we all have a debt of gratitude for what you've done for us. 988 and 211. They're straightforward. In this time and a day when we recognize the service of our veterans, just want to take a moment and say, hopefully we can give a little back. I have to, and I appreciate that very much. I do want to tease Gabby a little bit. We asked her what key she was going to sing in, Mr. Tatum and I from BMS, and she looked at us kind of funny. Gabby, I would say you sang in the key of excellence. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you. I want to thank the Town of Union for bringing us together, and particularly I want to thank the Alliance. You know, Veterans Day is a day we come together and we look at each other, but the work, not only on Veterans Day and on Memorial Day and on Pearl Harbor Day, the work is 365. And you guys do it each and every day, and you look for services and opportunities to help those. And hopefully the numbers I gave you can help someone along the way. If you're not sure, have them dial the number. And if there's anything we can do, never be shy about that either. Thank you for your service, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for that great information, I think, concise and so important for people in our audience and our viewing audience to have those numbers handy. Thank you so much. I now would like to call up Deputy Mayor Suzette Cavadas and Township Committeeman Joseph Florio.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I want to begin by recognizing all among us who have been a part of the great brotherhood and sisterhood we call the U.S. military, our veterans. Your service and sacrifice have kept our country safe and free. So at this time, I'd like to acknowledge everyone in this room, and please give them a round of applause because they deserve it. In honor of Veterans Day, I'd like to take this time to read a poem titled "We Owe Them a Lot" by Joanna Futches. On Veterans Day, we remember again our men and women who served. We honor them now for what they did then, the liberties they preserved. Let's never forget their sacrifice, the hard, heavy work they have done. They did what was asked, crucial needs they fulfilled. With a telephone, pencil, or gun, we're happy and proud to honor them. They gave us so much more than they got. Our heroes, our veterans, kept freedom safe. All of us owe them a lot. Thanks to those who served and those who continue to serve today. Americans sleep peacefully every night because they've stood guard around the world. Military and men and women know the risks, but they accept them so that others won't have to. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. Today's a very important day for all of you and for all of us in the Township of Union. I want to take a moment to recognize all our past and present veterans. Your selflessness and sacrifice sets an example for us and allows us to exist freely and comfortably. It's a debt that could never truly be repaid. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the families of the service members and veterans for whom the battle is personal. Their sacrifice, support, resilience must never be forgotten, and I thank the mothers, fathers, spouses, and children of our veterans. John F. Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not the utter words, but to live by them. As we recognize this Veterans Day and the many others that follow, we can never forget the great sacrifice of our armed forces. As we take this time to remember veterans today, we will also keep in mind that saying thank you is not merely enough. May we honor their bravery by caring for one another and our country in the pursuit of a more perfect union. Thank you again for your sacrifice in the defense of our country. God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Suzette, for those remarks. Now, with great pleasure, I have the opportunity to introduce you to today's guest speaker, retired Staff Sergeant Robert Bobby Leamy. Bobby was born and raised here in the Township of Union and enlisted in the United States Army upon graduating high school. He served in Iraq and performed combat missions in Baghdad, Fallujah, and Sadr City, and was eventually promoted to the rank of Staff Sergeant and served as a squad leader. He later joined and served in the New Jersey Army National Guard from 2005 till 2008. The Union Township Police Department was also lucky enough to get him, and he became a police officer in 2007. For the past 2.5 years, Bobby Leamy was assigned to the Training Bureau and now serves as Assistant Team Leader for the Union County SWAT team. It goes without saying that our neighborhoods and quite possibly our country are safer because of people like Bobby Leamy. Please join me in welcoming to this podium Staff Sergeant Leamy.
Good morning. When Billy Reyes told me that he and Bob Johnson would like me to come and be a guest speaker of today's ceremony, I agreed without hesitation. I asked Bill what he'd like me to talk about. He told me to discuss what it's like being a young veteran in 2022. The call for more veterans to join the VFW and local organizations, and the organization and the VFW's moving forward from this point on. As a side note, I am 41 years old. I served my last active duty military time in March of 2005. So I'm quite flattered to be considered a young veteran, per se. I expressed this to Billy. He said, well, we're the same age, so it's feeling that we're both young. So what it's like to be a young veteran in 2022, or a young veteran in the Township of Union. For me, it's great. I work for a town and a police department that loves its veterans and its veteran community. This town has always respected its veterans, has always had ceremonies for its veterans. A lot of towns have forgotten that. A lot of towns, in the height of the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan, used to celebrate and have these celebrations, and they don't do it anymore, but this township still does. But unfortunately, not every veteran is as fortunate as myself. I came across a short story posted on a veteran military social media page. They're called Havoc Journal. And it was written by unknown SOF soldier. And it expresses what the current sentiment is for many veterans. You return home to a society that spends its days looking at a facade. To them, you are a war hero, not a tattered and torn PTSD-riddled psycho, failing to comprehend the spectrum that lies in between. They praise you for your actions of a warrior. The actions, if explained, would only plaster horror on the faces of those willing to listen. You return home to parades, ceremonies, to a nation grateful only to the facade. They are grateful so as long as you do not bother them. They are grateful so long as you are a strong warrior and nothing less. You return home to fight the behemoth that is the VA. You walk the labyrinth of halls until you are lost. You fought for a country that now makes you fight for each and every bit of what you deserve. For the very dignity of this nation owes you, you come home to suffer in silence. The system is overbearing. The warrior is lost in a battle of paperwork. They are pushed aside and forgotten. They are given pills and left to suffer in silence until the suffering ends or they end it themselves. The adolescent becomes an adult in a single moment, 17 to 18, just like that. The adult becomes a soldier. The soldier becomes a warrior. The warrior becomes a veteran. The veteran becomes forever lost and forgotten. The veteran is thrust into a grateful nation. The veteran is left in the care of the neglectful system. The veteran is left to suffer in silence. The veteran is too tired to fight any longer. The veteran drifts away among the numbers until they enter heaven. The veteran's family is left in the hands of a grateful nation and the neglectful system. The soldier is left to fight from the beginning and beyond the end for what is simply owed. This stuff is not free. The freedom of a nation rests on the soldiers of the forgotten who understands and live every day with the price. For all of your suffering, you are not alone. There are veterans across this nation, this town, that care. There are citizens and family members who care. As Veterans Day approaches, the burden often weighs heavier, but you are not alone. This brings me to the last portion of my presentation. I did lose 4 of my veteran brothers overseas in Iraq. Since being home, I've lost more brothers to substance abuse and suicide. If you're a veteran and you feel like you don't have anywhere to go or anyone to turn to, your local VFWs and other veteran organizations are here for you. You sign up, you go to meetings, go meet your fellow veterans. Become involved in these veteran organizations. I have made some awesome friendships and unbreakable bonds with Vietnam veterans, Desert Storm veterans, and I had the honor and pleasure to actually exchange some stories with Union's last World War II Pearl Harbor survivor before he passed. One service that the VA doesn't offer that can help with mental health issues that you're suffering from is speaking to veterans that understand and that what you're going through. The VA, yes, they have groups that you can sit there and you can talk to, but nothing's like going to the VFW, going to the American Legion, Sitting down with your local veterans, having a beer, watching a baseball game, that makes you open up instead of sitting in a gray room with other veterans and not wanting to open up. You're able to open up more, speaking to other veterans. One of the best places for that is your local VFWs and your veteran organizations. I encourage every veteran that is not involved in your local organizations to become a member, to get involved. We have strength in numbers, and the more veterans we have in these organizations, the more power our national officers have to push new laws and legislations in Washington, D.C. To give you, to give us, to give the next generation of veterans better benefits for themselves and their families. In closing, thank you, Township Union and the Union VFW, for asking me to speak, and thank you for everyone that has listened. Thank you, veterans, for all that you've given to this great country. God bless America.
Thank you, Sergeant, for those enlightening words that really brought to light what personal experiences our veterans go through and hope as we move forward. Thank you, Sergeant, for those words. I want to invite an individual who not only put his life on the line by serving his country, but is currently working to ensure that veterans have an easy transition back into civilian life by assisting in job training and veteran hiring. Vernon Tatum, who is with us today, is part of Bristol-Myers Squibb's Veterans Community Network. Vernon was going to be joined by Ken Faria. Unfortunately, Ken got into a car accident yesterday and could not join us today, but luckily he is doing okay. Last month, Bristol-Myers Squibb was one of 15 companies in the U.S. to receive the highest employer honor by the Department of Defense for exemplary work, not only for veterans, but those who are still serving our country in the National Guard and Reserves. But Ken and Vernon are the men of honor today. I cannot wait to hear more about the importance of utilizing skills that veterans acquired in the military, and of course, supporting those who have served honorably. Vernon Tatum joined BMS in 1997 in the Virology Division, where he promoted HIV and HCV medicines in Newark, New Jersey for 19 years. He hails from a military family led by his father. He and his 3 siblings have represented all 4 branches of service to our country. Vernon graduated from the United States Military Academy in 1987 and married his West Point classmate, Ela, 3 days after college graduation. No wasting time, Vernon, right? Vernon served as a mechanized infantry officer in the 1st Armored Division and was deployed from Germany, to Desert Storm in 1990. He has continued his service to our country and BMS by leading VCN chapters in dozens of communities, giving and volunteering events. Please join me with a warm welcome for Mr. Vernon Tatum. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you all this morning. So I thank you, Mayor Figueredo, members of the committee, Senator Cryan, for this warm invitation. So my name is Vernon Tatum. I do bring you greetings from Bristol-Myers Squibb, where I have been there for 25 years. It is an amazing company, and it's an amazing company because we support veterans. And on this Veteran Day, in this town of Union, in the greatest state in our country, which is New Jersey, in the greatest nation in this world, which is the United States of America, it is indeed a pleasure to be here with you all sharing in this Veterans Day. It's a great day because veterans should be honored. And I'm not saying that because I'm a veteran, but I'm saying that because when someone raises their hand and voluntarily says, I will go and support and defend the Constitution of this United States, that should be honored. When someone gives of their time, their talent, and their treasure to be a member of the United States and the armed forces of this great country, they should be honored. So it is indeed a pleasure to be here with you this morning, sharing in this Veterans Day. And I was looking at that 4th row there, I see some honorable folks. I see some hats that represent years of service to our nation. And so I want to applaud you all for being here and for being veterans, right? Representing the Vietnam era all the way up through the Iraq conflict. I thank you for your service. So my job today is to share with you what Bristol-Myers Squibb is doing to help and support veterans. And as I stated earlier, we are giving of our talent. We are giving of our time, and we are giving of our treasure. How are we giving of our talent? We're developing programs at Bristol-Myers Squibb to reach out to veterans and their families so that we invite them in. The job we have, the goal we've set for ourselves is to hire at least 200 veterans each year. And that goal is not one that's lost on us because we realize that so many veterans, when they leave the service, find themselves unemployed. And so we want to reach out to them. We want to help to mentor them. We have what we call American Corporate Partners, where we reach out to veterans and we share with them what we know about the corporate world to help them translate and transform themselves from the military into the corporate world, because we speak a different language in the military than we do in the corporate world. And so we help them to meld those languages so that they can become successful. And not only become successful, but to thrive. And the way that they thrive is by continuing mentoring through the whole process. Because you can hire somebody, but that doesn't mean that they're going to stay. And so to keep that retention, we make sure that we connect with them so that they know how important they are to our company, so that they know how important their families are to our company. So if they are a reservist or a National Guard person, and they have to go out and do a tour of duty, we take care of their families while they're away. So they don't have to worry about what's going on at home, so they can serve wherever they're needed to serve. We make sure that their managers and supervisors know how important their service is to our country, so that they don't have to worry about their job being secured when they come back. So those are some of the things we do in terms of talent and making sure that we reach out to talented military veterans and that we make sure that we keep them once they enter Bristol-Myers Squibb as employees. We also give of our time. We give of our time by making sure that we chat with them, and we have organizations like Wreaths Across America. So in December, members of our company are going to set wreaths in national cemeteries at the grave sites of veterans. All across the country, Wreaths Across America, we're volunteering our time, because that's what I'm asking all of you to do, is to volunteer your time to give back to veterans and veteran organizations so that we can make sure that they realize that we value them. We value their service. We value them as people. We value them as citizens. So we do that as well. We also have what we call Operation Gratitude. Operation Gratitude is designed to gather up sundries, to gather up materials and clothing and send them and give them to veterans. To volunteer to do things like packing up goodie bags and giving out to homeless veterans. Operation Gratitude is designed to let them know that we are grateful for your service to our great nation. So in the VCN that I'm a member of at Bristol-Myers Squibb, across this country, we have 1,600 members that on a day-to-day basis seek veterans to let them know, hey, I see you, I value you, and I thank God for you. And so that's what we do in terms of our time. And lastly, in terms of our treasure, we have 3 organizations that we do a 2-to-1 giving partnership with, meaning that if a Bristol-Myers Squibb employee gives $1, the company is going to give $2 to that organization. We have 3 such. One is called the Travis Manion Foundation. Travis Manion gave his life, the ultimate sacrifice, in 2006 in Iraq. And so what we do to help to support that foundation and what they do to help to support veterans is they go out to underserved communities across this great nation of ours. And they seek to make leaders out of young children of character and great person. Right? So that's what they do. And we help them to do that by doing what? Giving of our dollars. We have a lot of great organizations in this nation that do great work, but it takes funding to do that. And so we help to fund those organizations. We also help to fund the Paralyzed Veterans of America Foundation, because we have so many veterans that find themselves in wheelchairs. But wheelchairs do not mean that your life is over. Wheelchair just means that your life is going to be from a wheelchair, but you can do great things from a wheelchair. There should be nothing that keeps you from achieving just because you're in a wheelchair. And so we support that foundation as well, to bring them up, to allow them to have camaraderie with each other when they have their wheelchair games, right? To allow them to be reminded that, hey, the situation you're in is not limiting. There's nothing that can limit you just because you're in a wheelchair. And then the last one that we support is the Fisher House Foundation, 2-to-1 giving. Fisher House Foundation is designed just like the Ronald McDonald House Foundation is designed. But this one is designed so whenever a military member is in a VA, their family can come and stay in that Fisher House. So they don't have to worry about where they're going to be, the payment of a hotel cost. None of that has to be concern of theirs because they can stay at a Fisher House. So vitally important to know that if your member is in a hospital, is in a Veterans Administration hospital, that they're going to be taken, that family's going to be taken care of, and they don't have to worry about where they're going to stay. Vitally important to the healing process of anybody to know that, hey, my family's okay. And so that's what Bristol Myers Squibb is doing. We are giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure to make sure that veterans across this nation are taken care of. Time and talent and treasure is vitally important. There's so many veteran-owned businesses in this great state of ours that need the support of Bristol Myers Squibb to say, hey, you can come be a contractor for us, and we will pay you. We'll support you. Come work for us. That's important, and that's my challenge to anybody that owns a business. Hire a veteran-owned business as a contractor to do that work for you. That's the challenge. And so I thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity to share what Bristol Myers Squibb is doing and across this great nation of ours for veterans. I thank you all for just lending your ear. And I challenge you, as you go through your day-to-day business, do so with a veteran in mind. I challenge you that as you volunteer to do work, do so in a veteran organization that needs your help. I challenge you to support the VFWs across this nation, the American Legions across this nation. Support them because they need your help. Thank you for your time. And so now, as I'm leaving, I will ask Sergeant Leamy to come up. Is he still here? Sir, please come up. I want to present you with a Bristol Myers Squibb VCN coin.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your service. Senator Cryan, will you come up, please? For all that you're doing for veterans in this great state of ours of New Jersey, thank you, sir, for your service.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. May God bless these United States of America.
Thank you, Vernon. And please thank Bristol Myers Squibb for all that they do. That was inspirational, I think, to all of us, and enlightening that corporate America is out there looking towards our veterans and looking to foster relationships with them, opening doors, opening avenues, and helping them out. So thank you so much. A nice round of applause again for Vernon Tatum. Thank you so much. There's an individual, you know, we fight wars on many fronts. The past few years, we've been fighting a war that we don't see the enemy, and that was COVID, right here in our country. And there was a person that behind the scenes helped to fight this. And I just want to take a moment to recognize this individual because this individual did so much to help our Union County area get healthy, let's put it that way, get protected. And this was a resolution that should have been presented to her sooner, but I think it's apropos that she is here today. I'd like to call up Ms. Jessica Cohen and present this resolution to her. I think I surprised her. This should have been last year, Jess, but things happen. Just thank you. And it's signed by Michelle Dellisford as mayor, but we felt it's so important to have you recognized. So thank you for all you did for us.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, that's embarrassing. Thank you so much.
As Jess said, that's embarrassing. But that's okay. It's well-deserved, Jess. It's now my honor to introduce our second guest speaker for today's program, retired Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Skeet Bernard, a Kane University graduate commissioned into the United States Air Force as a second lieutenant. When she started in the military, she met and married her husband of 27 years, Henry Bernard, RN, in 1994. After 25 years, they have both obtained the rank of lieutenant colonel. Debbie later retired from the military in May of 2019. She didn't stop there, as she also received her master's in nursing and public administration 2001, postmaster's in nursing education in 2006, and a master's in healthcare administration in 2009. Gosh, I got tired just saying all of that. What accomplishments. Her military education culminated with completing Air War College. Whew. She continued her nursing career as a sexual assault nurse examiner for the Essex County Prosecutor's Office and currently teaches undergraduate nurse in clinical settings. Today, the Colonel is here to discuss her work at the Veterans Hospital and its many services and programs. Please help me welcome to the podium retired Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Skeet Bernard. Let's have a nice round of applause for her.
Good morning. Good morning. God is good. Thank you, Mayor, committee members, Senator Cryan, because without you, a lot would not be known. What, Leo? Leo, I love you dearly. Comrade Leamy, thank you for that poem or that excerpt from that veteran that people do not see and hear of too often. We always hear of the heroes who walk, the heroes who stand, but not those who suffer in silence. Thank you, Bristol Myers Squibb. Mr. Tatum, because if I hadn't done my 26 years, I would enlist all over again. But with the commissioning, with the enlisting, comes issues that we don't like to talk about. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse since 1990, Air Force flight nurse, combat nurse, and now I work at the VA. I have seen, heard veterans who commit suicide. We had a veteran who drove up to Hackensack Medical Police Department and shot himself in the driveway. We had one on Lyons campus who shot himself. We don't like to talk about what's the bad things because we figure they'll go away, but they don't. Mental health is an issue. The VA does have services for mental health. Sometimes it's a challenge to get there, as they said, because it is a whirlwind, things are always changing. A fallacy that some have is that everything at the VA is free. It is not. Your care, to be free, you have to be service connected. And people don't understand that. I have my former unit commander, a colonel who has now lymphoma, is trying to get service connected as she's getting treatment because of her Desert Storm, Desert Shield exposures. And it wasn't easy for me to try to get service connected at my age, and I'm 20 years her junior. But the VA does have services. We talk about mental health. Yes, there's mental health, but the VA, like any other organization, is short-staffed. So things may not come as we need it. Things may not come as you see it. Mental health. We have complementary care, integrative care, where we have pain management just for those for pain, to try different things, which include massage, acupuncture, and chiropractor. We only have a few, so everybody can't get it at the same time. Remember, there's also COVID. Some people have not come back in, or we get phone calls that we didn't know that the VA was seeing people in person. There is a 24-hour line that you can call, and someone will answer if you have an issue. So there's never to say that no one will answer. Someone will always answer. You just have to dial the number. You have to be willing to be your advocate, because what we don't know, we can't try to fight. And as a nurse, I advocate for my patients every day. We have VSOs. Yesterday we had a 97-year-old vet play in a jazz trio for our Veteran Day ceremony. And it was a pleasure to see that he could do it. But there's so many of us who are home, wrapped up in our blankets, and I have my moments too. Because not every day is an easy day to get up and just move forward. Some days it's things that people say, things that people do. Sometimes it's just a moment that takes you back to a time you didn't want to be, and it's hard to come forward. But as he said, to join the VA, VFW, my brothers, my comrades at the VFW, I'm a spoiled child. I'm a firecracker, but I'm a spoiled child. Service is the rent that we pay to be on this earth. That's Shirley Chisholm. Service is not just because we want to get acknowledged. Service is not because we want to do things. We get paid for being at the VA. I get paid well for working at the VA. That's my job, to take care of vets, and I go above and beyond. It may cause a little ruffle in someone's feathers because I don't hold back for mine. But I do want you to know that there is someone there that cares. There will be always someone there, but you have to make that effort. Don't come in yelling and screaming, because I'll tell you, you're triggered, you'll trigger me too. So there's a way to ask for help, and help will be given. Too much who's given, much is required. And I am here. A lot of the people at the VA are here to help. Yes, we get paid to do it. Some people don't act like it. They think it's their world. Truth, honesty. But there are those of us who care, and we try our best to do for our brothers and sisters. So, if there's help you need, I can give you my personal cell phone number, 201-240-0465, and you can call me if you have trouble getting through the VA. I will call your doctor, send them messages. Told you, I'm annoying. But I do for my brothers and sisters, because if you're well, I'm well. One hand can't clap alone, as my mom says. So, thank you all for allowing me to speak. Bill, thank you. Mayor, Senator Crine. I have to thank Senator Crine especially, because I got a phone call, and I had no idea why these people are calling me and why they're acknowledging me. But I was acknowledged by Donald Payne for my service, and I didn't have no clue how he got my name. But thank you, Senator Crine. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Skeet Bernard. Thank you for those very important and to the heart words. Very important. Before we close our program, I'd like to call your attention to either of the monitors up here for a short thank you video tribute for our veterans.
Dear veterans.
Dear veterans.
Dear veterans.
We don't have the privilege to know each other, but you were one of the reasons I joined the Army.
I joined the Air Force.
I joined the Marine Corps. It wasn't until I enlisted that I realized how much we, as a country, owe you.
Being a service member takes hard work,
Dedication, courage, and commitment to earn the privilege of being a part of the greatest armed forces in the world. Even on days when I wanted to give up,
I always had my brothers and sisters in service around me.
who provided support when I needed it.
that camaraderie wouldn't exist without your prior example and leadership.
It has been an honor to follow in your footsteps.
But it is not lost on us the pain, the loss, and the fight.
That you and other veterans have endured along the way.
We will never forget the great sacrifices, and in some cases,
The ultimate sacrifices that those in service made.
The words thank you for your service can never be enough.
I hope to lead by example and serve as a role model for my family and my community. I look back at my time in the service, and I am in awe of the bravery of my fellow soldiers.
We all owe you an insurmountable debt of gratitude.
Thank you for paving the way.
And for your part in securing liberty
And freedom for all.
May God bless you, and may God bless America.
Before I ask Reverend Starling to come out and give us our final benediction, I just want to call Bob Johnson. You know, we talk about remembering. Just come up real quick. I have something to give to you. This is quick. Our elementary students, it's important that we talk about remembering. And I just have, these are very simple. These are from one of our local elementary pre-K students that just want to thank our veterans on this Veterans Day. So it's important that this message is getting out to our youth. So I share this with you. Thank you. All right? Thank you. I told you it was easy.
Yeah, now that you have me, I got to say something.
Okay. Now Bob wants to say something.
I wasn't going to, but now that I'm up here. On behalf of the Veterans Alliance, the VFW, the American Legion, Senator Cryan, thank you for what you're doing at the State House for our veterans. That was something. Don and Bill, thank you for this ceremony. It couldn't have been any better. And thank you to the mayor and the Township Committee from the Veterans Alliance. Thank you.
This is just a small token of a thank you that we have to all of our men and women that allow us to be in this kind of room today, safe from harm from outside. So thank all of you in this room that have made that possible. I do want to thank Bill Reyes for this program, all of the wonderful words that are here, the programs, the videos that are up there, Edith and Alex for helping out with that. And with that, I'd like to call up Reverend Starling, who will lead us in the benediction.
Let us look to the Lord. Heavenly Father, we truly appreciate you for this rich time that we have spent in your presence. It was time well spent remembering the sacrifice of our veterans, the love and the care and the support. May the things that were poured into our hearts today bring forth great fruit. May we take action to do everything within our strength and our power to see that your love is expressed through us to them. We thank you for this time, for all of those who are involved. We speak blessings upon their life and their families. And may we work together for a brighter future for all of us and our veterans and their family. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Sarlin. This brings us to a conclusion of today's program. I thank each and every one of you, and especially our veterans and our speakers here today that brought so much enlightenment, information, consolation to our veterans, and hope as we move forward. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.